A woman at a lake monitoring station in Zimbabwe radios a ferry captain and tells him the water is too dangerous to cross. He tells her he will move slowly and find somewhere to dock if things get worse. 30 minutes later, his boat is upside down in the water, and it is carrying almost double the number of people it was ever built to hold. This happened less than 2 weeks ago. It is now the deadliest boat disaster in Zimbabwe's history, and as of this video, search teams are still pulling bodies out of the lake. Here is what actually happened on Lake Kariba, and why almost nobody on that boat had a real chance once the water started coming in. Lake Kariba sits on the border between Zimbabwe and Zambia, and it is the largest artificial lake in the world by volume, built in the late 1950s by damming the Zambezi River. It is over 200 kilometers long, and for the small communities scattered along its shoreline, it is often the only realistic way to get anywhere. One of the vessels making that crossing was a ferry called the Nahanda, named after a 19th-century spiritual figure who became a symbol of resistance in Zimbabwean history. The boat itself had been in service since 1985, running a route between Kariba town and a remote settlement called Kalala, about 50 kilometers down the lake. It was not a cruise ship. It was closer to a lifeline, carrying parents with kids heading home for school holiday, traders restocking supplies, and fish sellers moving product between towns that otherwise had almost no connection to each other. Its licensed capacity was 90 people. On the morning of August 11th, Lake Kariba's Weather Monitoring Center picked up on unstable conditions building over the water and issued an early warning telling boat operators not to sail that day. The ferry's captain, a man named Sian Patsakadova, was in direct radio contact with the navigation center before departure. According to investigators, he was told conditions were unsafe. His response was that he would move the vessel slowly and find somewhere to dock if the weather turned worse. The boat left anyway, carrying somewhere close to 180 people and their goods. That is roughly double what it was rated to carry, and it is worth sitting with that number for a second, because it means for every single seat this boat was designed to safely hold, there was very nearly one more person standing somewhere it had no real space for. For the first part of the crossing, things seemed to hold together. Then, about 30 minutes in, near a stretch of water called Long Island, the waves got significantly worse. The ferry was already running on a single functioning engine. As the waves grew, water started coming aboard faster than it could be managed, and the bilge pump, the system meant to clear water out of the hull, ended up submerged and useless. Once that happened, the boat's remaining engine gave out entirely. Without power and without a working pump, the ferry lost the ability to keep itself pointed into the waves. It swung broadside, side on to the water instead of facing it head on, and that is the position almost no boat can survive for long and rough conditions. It rolled over shortly after. Survivors later described passengers realizing there were not enough life jackets to go around, and people scrambling to find something, anything, to hold onto in the water. One of the 2 crew members who survived, a man named Anyway Shambadi, described staying alive by climbing onto the hull of the capsized boat and standing on top of it while it was still afloat. He recalled passengers screaming that the boat was flooding as water poured into the engine room and cargo spilled out around them. Captain Patsakadova did not survive. He was found among the dead. Rescue crews arrived using whatever boats were available in the area, later reinforced by police divers, army boat units, and local fishermen who knew the lake well enough to help search it. 77 people were pulled out alive in the immediate aftermath. Everyone else on that boat was either dead or still missing. Zimbabwe's government declared this a national disaster within a day, and launched a formal inquest into exactly what went wrong. Investigators pulled the hull out for inspection fairly early on, and found it fully intact, 10 millimeters of solid steel plating with no dents or rust. So this was not a boat that fell apart because it was physically falling apart. What investigators are looking at instead is a combination of decisions. A weather warning that told every operator on the lake to stay docked that day. A vessel sent out anyway, carrying close to double its rated capacity. And a captain who, by his own words on the radio, knew the crossing was risky and chose to attempt it regardless. As of this video, The death toll stands at 97 confirmed, with a handful of families still waiting on word about relatives who haven't been found. Officials expect that number may still climb before search operations wrap up. What makes this one hard to shake isn't just the number of people who died. It's how avoidable nearly every part of it looks in hindsight. There was a warning. There was a radio conversation where the risk was spelled out directly to the person in charge. There was a boat sent out anyway, loaded with double the people it was built to carry, on a route that thousands of families had no real alternative to. None of that is unique to Zimbabwe either. Overloaded ferries on isolated water routes have caused some of the deadliest transport disasters in the world, from Lake Victoria to the Philippines, usually for the exact same underlying reason. The people relying on that boat had no other way to get where they were going, and the people running it made a bet that the weather would hold. This time, and so many times before it, that bet didn't pay off. An inquest is now underway to establish exactly what happened and who bears responsibility for it. Whatever it concludes, it won't change what already happened out on that water. This channel covers the events people are actually talking about right now, alongside the deeper historical cases most other channels skip. New videos twice a week. Subscribe if you want to stay on top of both, and drop a comment if there's a current story you think deserves a full breakdown.